Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Richard Fish once again. Now I'm going to be moving on for an amendment discussion. I'm going to be talking about the Third and Fourth Amendment for right now. Now, the Third Amendment, it's a pretty simple one. No soldier or military personnel shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. That, as you can clearly see, I'm not changing it. I don't feel like that needs to be changed at all. I think that, why not? Because, Trump clearly isn't going to go, or any Trump or any, future president, I don't think is going to be that cruel and actually start forcing soldiers into our own homes like this. So I fail to see how the Third Amendment needs to change. So that's basically it for the third one. It's going to stay exactly the same, and there's no need to change it. But now, for the Fourth Amendment, this is the minor revision for it. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. If the floor for probable cause is not met, the arresting officers are liable for damages caused by the unreasonable searches and seizures, thereby removing any immunity granted by the state or federal government. The arresting officers are open to civil lawsuits and will not be covered by state or federal funds. Arresting officers are open to criminal prosecution if crimes are found while committing unreasonable search and seizures. Now, I guess you can call this lucky, but there's a great, nice example that happened. The Utah Rock Police, whatever the situation going in Utah with the Legos, that is the perfect example of why the Fourth Amendment needs to be revised. In this case, and for those who are unaware of what it is, basically a YouTuber called Ben has pretty much tried to recover a Lego set, $200,000 Lego set from a dying grandfather and his family. Unfortunately, this man tried to go after this company called Bricks and Minifigs, and apparently they just, because of their apparently religious associations, being Mormons, apparently they're just, the gentleman in question of Brick and Figs, Minifigs and Bricks, are just abusing the police department and just sicking the police on them. That is the clear-cut case, I say, a recent example of why the Fourth Amendment needs to be changed. Because there is a very, very low chance that the fact that any of these, not only will none of the officers be prosecuted, but that Ben can even sue him for financial damages, and his group, mind you. His other group, when they were all getting arrested, they were, accosted by a search warrant that said they had stolen the Legos, which of course wasn't true, and there's a mountain of physical evidence. And the fact that the federal government hasn't intervened says a lot. Like, there should be a separate, other state governor, hell, even the governor of Utah should be intervening and saying something. The fact that none of the federal government or the government of Utah has said anything says just how blatantly, corrupt this whole situation is. So, qualified immunity needs to get thrown out the window in cases like this. And yes, a judge should be granted the power to throw out the qualified immunity. Especially in case when they've seen all that list of evidence of what's happening to Ben. This is such a clear-cut case. Quite frankly, I feel like this should be one that, I'm sure there's others too, but this feels like the most clear-cut poster case of police brutality and police overstepping the boundaries at the beginning. The police work for the people, not against for the individual. And that's what's happening right here. A single individual is using his power, because they're all of the same religion, so to speak, religious buddies, to force the police department to not send out just an arrest warrant, but to physically be violent with an individual who's trying to recover stolen property. That's all this is. And he tried to be civil with it, mind you. He went through the whole process. He went through the civil process, and the judge said, yeah, you're good. But a completely different judge decided to say, nah, you're the guy who stole all these Legos. Here's the arrest warrant. These cops, are allowed to break in, smash into your home, guns drawn, because you're such a menace to Utah, the society of Utah, and arrest you. That should be just grounds, not only just, banned from just being police, but Ben should have the full power to sue all those individuals, the police department individuals. Because right now, the only power he has is that he has to sue the Utah Police Department. And that's taxpayer dollars. Taxpayer dollars should not be used in a situation like that. This is the clear-cut situation where taxpayer dollars should not be paid for by police stupidity. they then should be able to sue each of these officers individually for personal financial situations like this. So, this is why I have this revision in here. The arresting officers are open to civil lawsuits and will be not covered by state or federal funds. The state or federal should not be fighting any civil lawsuits at all, whether it's the FBI, Secret Service, or in this case, the Utah Police. No state, federal dollars should be used at all. If you're being sued by another individual because you as a cop overstepped your boundaries, you have to fight it yourself. You cannot, the government or state cannot give you money to fight it. This should actually honestly clear up a lot of bad actors. And yes, removing the immunity is the one that we need to work on. A judge should have a say in that. A judge should have the power to strip the immunity automatically when it says that, and also rule that the fact that state or federal government cannot help you in this case. You as an officer, even if they moved to a different department somehow, they were able to escape, to a different county, different state, get a new good job at a cop, that they still can't use state or federal dollars. That's another big thing. You cannot just escape to another state as a police officer or FBI or whatever and expect the state and federal state pay for you to fight your civil lawsuit. No, you fight it yourself. You made the mistake. You're the adult. You overstepped your boundaries. You knew that it was wrong what you were doing. So maybe you need to take responsibility as an adult and fight the civil lawsuit yourself. You, as an adult, need to admit that you've made a mistake. You need to understand that you're the one who overstepped. You violated this person's rights. And you have to pay for it. Not the state, not the federal government, and not the taxpayers. They should not be paying for your mistakes. And I believe by revisiting this Fourth Amendment, we can cut out a lot of not only just the bad actors out of the police departments, we can also save taxpayer dollars. Because that is a big reason why we're having an issue right now, is because police departments around the country are spending millions of dollars to settle lawsuits because of police who are overstepping their boundaries and who are still working as police. They're just simply moved somewhere else. Very prosecutions for them are incredibly rare. Especially in this case in Utah, I highly doubt there's going to be any cops being arrested and whatnot. So, this is the Utah case with the Legos, is the clear-cut case of how the Fourth Amendment needs to be revised. Third Amendment, completely fine, but the Fourth Amendment, we need to actually revise it to make sure we, the public, can actually hold cops and federal officers who overstep their boundaries responsible without being paid by taxpayer money, because my taxes should not be going to people's civil lawsuits. If someone like Reckless Ben is suing somebody, a cop, because he oversteps his boundaries, the state and federal officers should not be paying for that. No, it should come out of the officer's pockets, because qualified immunity does not occur in that case. So, that is my case for the Fourth Amendment changing. I hope there is a nice, fruitful discussion about this, and I'll see you guys for another discussion. Thank you.